Welcome everyone. I'm your facilitator Saket Bansal, and today we are looking at another people domain task. So today I am picking up task 5, ensuring team stakeholders are adequately trained. Now, I personally see this is like a new thing which we started seeing in the project management content since this new content outline came in. Before that, the training and the focus on people development was there, but not that much. Here, we have a task 5 in our people domain and having 4 subtopics into it, which is reminding the project manager that you need to ensure that your people, your team member, as well as stakeholder, should be well trained. The sub items talks about ensure that they have a required competency, you explore for various training option, and you allocate resources for the training and measure the overall training outcome. So we'll talk about these things. As a reminder, the people domain is something which help us in acquiring 42% marks in the exam, and it has 14 tasks. So we are exploring today the task number 5. Before I get into details of task number 5, I want to discuss some kind of a people related mindset, because many of us who have been doing project management for a while may need to get a new feeling or new understanding of how we should deal with our team members and stakeholders. So I go one by one. I have just picked up these 6 topics. They are my kind of summarization. I'm not picking up anything from PMI content. This is like a specific thing. So now first is developing team member is something becoming necessary now. So say our earlier understanding was in order to get the project management or project done efficiently, we need to ensure their work and requirements are well understood. We need to create a proper work breakdown structure, give a clear cut task instructions to the people so the people who are executing it just can do it. And the project manager or the management team who have created this schedule have created it with the utmost care. And by doing this work, we just achieve the project objective. That was our old thinking. Now, some of you believe this is what the project management is about. Not at all. Because the world is becoming very dynamic now. We can call it VUCA word, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous word. Now, in this word, knowing things in advance is very difficult. And when the people are doing the work, especially in the creative industry, they are expected to discover new things. And those things cannot be planned in advance. So in order to achieve better performance, better result, better productivity, I need to ensure the people who are doing the work are capable. I need to ensure that I'm giving right information, right feedback to them. So in order to get high performing team, high performing individuals, I need to develop them rather than I need to monitor them and give a clear instruction, because I can't give clear instruction. So that's our project management mindset should be reconfigured in this way, that by developing people, by coaching them, by mentoring them, by training them, giving them right information, we get the things done. And that's why this particular task, which is primarily focusing on training, becomes important. Yeah, it is all about getting things done. Now, second thing, we need to also recognize that team member skills and experience can become outdated very quickly. Now, somebody will say, oh, I'm doing project, I will hire the right people. There is no right people, because the right people might be right skilled, experienced people in the beginning, but since the requirements are dynamic, the environments are dynamic, the complexity in the project is changing. As a project manager, I can't assume that I have the right skills and competency in my project team and I don't have to worry about it. So I need to continuously keep looking at the new environmental impact and which trigger development of new competencies, keep looking at what people are doing and what they should be building as a skill. So by doing continuous assessments of their current skills and desired skills, I need to discover their training needs. I can't assume that we just got them selected well, we just gave them initial training, now they will work throughout the project. So the things are changing very fast, so I need to keep updating my people as well. So that's a second mindset thing we need to keep in mind. Now, another thing which many times when I discover when I work with people, training looks like it's a human resource department or training department job. What project manager has to do with it? So again, developing your team is your responsibility. Ensuring the stakeholder knows how to interact with you, your responsibility. Understanding and ensuring the stakeholder has a better understanding about your product and services so that they can make best use of it, your responsibility. So I need to ensure that in my project in the impacted area, I need to provide them sufficient information, knowledge sharing, training, and the task gap need to be bridged upon. And I can't just depend upon my human resource department to manage or the learning. I need to do my project specific training. Yeah. So you may be having organization level trainings as well, but here we are focusing on the project specific needs, project specific competency, and you are the primary responsible for getting that. So that's a mindset we should keep in mind. If someone is lacking in the training and all, we need to get that thing addressed, and you should be responsible for doing it. Now, we need to also focus on, team must focus on improving skills in various areas. It is not like just focus on technical domain. So when I'm working with people, I need to make sure that they know how to work well with each other. I need to also train them on handling conflicts. I also need to train them on emotional intelligence. So we can't just focus on the hard skills. We also need to focus on soft skill. Now, the soft skills are also called power skill in a PMI language. So we need to balance it out. Yeah, that's another reminder as a project manager I need to keep in mind. Now I need to explore various modes of training delivery. Yeah, like where I need to do training, where I need to do mentoring, where I need to do coaching. I need to understand that different type of interventions will be needed in order to develop my team as well as my individuals. Now, another important area as a mindset, that I need to ensure the skill development is done just in time, not too much ahead than needed, not too late when the need is there and we don't have a skilled people. Now, these things sometimes become tricky in the exam also. So you should have some sense, some predictability that these kind of skills will be needed in our project environment. If you know these skills are not at all needed in your project environment, you should not be spending money of your organization to get people trained on it. So I need to have some business justification for the training. I need to see the right competencies and skills which are needed. And based on that, I should not be delaying it till the time the work comes to us and we don't have a capacity to estimate and work. Then it's too late. So I need to find the just right moment. So if you're dealing with a question, look at the option which gives you an indication that this is the just right moment to conduct the training, not too much ahead, not too late. So these are few mindset related stuff which we need to keep in mind when we are dealing with the training people. And it's a little different than generic project management beliefs. Now let's get into the details of our task, and I'm going one by one. So there are 4 subtasks. We focus on determining required competency, and then we focus on determining training based on the needs, and then we allocate resource and focus on the outcome. So first task, determine required competency and element of training. So the idea here is I have to focus on my stakeholders. I need to focus on my project team. When I'm doing my stakeholder analysis, when I'm understanding their needs and expectation, when I'm also finding out the engagement level with them, that will also give me a trigger what kind of training, what kind of engagement will be needed with these stakeholders. So, and this is not a one-time activity I may do in the beginning, but continuous stakeholder assessment helps me in identifying the training needs. When I'm working with a project team, periodically, I do team assessment and I also do individual assessment. So it's like we need to have an overall performance assessment. There has to be a feedback loop. Even if you are working in the agile world or a predictive world, whatever it is, there has to be a mechanism to know how are we doing. We may do it in the form of lesson learned meeting. We may do in the form of retrospective. We may do in the form of one-on-one interaction with the people. And we need to find out what is needed in order to improve our overall experience, our overall effectiveness, and overall collaboration in the team. So continuous stakeholder engagement and stakeholder analysis, continuously working with the project team on a periodic basis, doing the assessment and looking at various learning, I need to identify training needs. Yeah? I can focus on what is the competency my team, my stakeholder has, including stakeholder, to take care of current work. So there is a possibility in our projects, there are some current work also which may not be handled well because of lack of competency. So I may have a visibility of a current technological interaction, collaborative needs. And if I see there are gaps in handling that, I need to definitely identify the training needs for it. Similarly, I also need to focus on forecasted work. So what I see coming in, maybe in the next month or next say iteration in case of agile way of working, I need to get ready that, okay, do we have a right skilled people competent enough to do that particular work? So when I'm doing training need assessment, in the form of stakeholder analysis or in the form of team performance assessment, I need to focus on current work and future work and identify if there is a gap. There could be other kind of needs also which may generate training needs. One is a knowledge transfer. We may ensure that people should be having common understanding about what we are doing to get mitigate the risk of single point of failure. If you are aware of PMP language, they use that you should not have a situation where only one person can do the job and others are clueless about it. So we may need to organize knowledge sharing and training sessions as a training need identification for the purpose of knowledge sharing as well. Sometimes enabling change is also triggers training. Now, what is that? When you have a deliverable ready and you want to make sure the deliverables get used by the various users, they definitely may not be having skills and competency to use it. Again, it's a more focusing on stakeholder level training focus that may also trigger a training need identification. So it is not a one-time job. It looks like to many of you that it is just a beginning of the project. You may do throughout the project. And yes, generally, when it comes to stakeholders, initially on a phase levels and especially towards the closing of the project, you may have a lot of training needs from the stakeholders because they are the one who will take the change forward. They are the one who want to get a knowledge of it before the project team closes their activities there. Project teams will have a throughout the need of a training because the skills are dynamic as well as people are also keep coming in and going in the project space. So we need to identify the competencies and required competencies and identify the gaps as a project manager on a periodic basis so that we can recommend them the right training. So that's the first subtask of your training task. Then the second focus about determining training options based on training needs. So we know these kind of trainings are needed. What do we do about it? How do we deliver those particular training? So we can think of various training modes, or models. Say, should I give them a video and let them study themselves, self-paced learning? Yeah, looks good, but it may be not effective. So I need to see what is a criticality of the requirement. If the subject is complex, and the person who is receiving it must get it well, else we have a big impact on the project, I will go for live interaction, either in the classroom format or live virtual format. But if subject is a little bit less complex, and even if some inefficiencies are there in their learning, still the impact on the projects are not high, usually related to stakeholder and creating awareness about it, I can go for self-paced e-learning. Self-paced e-learning could be based on documents. Yeah, we can give some material to them so that they can read it. It could be a video content so that they can watch it. But there can be some mechanism where people can consume themselves. Now, it has a scalability. You can publish a video, you can publish a document and say 1,000 people to read it. It has a huge scalability. The disadvantage is the engagement and the validity of the knowledge is less. So I may want to put some quizzes, some evaluation mechanism inside my e-learning content or post e-learning content to ensure that there was some engagement, and probably I need to do something about where the people are not scoring well. So I need to do some kind of risk mitigation, but that is something I can use in order to scale my training. For critical skills, for critical impacted area, I definitely want to have a live interaction because it's a rich interaction. People have a confusion, they can ask then and there, and that helps us in ensuring that knowledge is really getting communicated. We can have simulations. We can give people case studies so that they can work through the case studies and come up with the learning. And many times it's a kind of clubbed with mentoring. We can have an on-job training also. So we can assign someone as a mentor and the person works along with them, keep shadowing each other. And based on that, we are training the person and as well as the person is working in their current job. It's a 101, it's more like a small group thing, but that's another option. So we can focus on what kind of training models we need to follow. So when you get a question, you need to see what is a criticality of the knowledge, what is the complexity of it, how critical is to absorb that knowledge, and what is the scale we want to focus on. And based on that, you need to identify, can it be self-consumed or should it be always facilitated? So that's one kind of answer questions you might end up doing. The another type of thing, when you are determining training option based on training need, you may also need to focus on what is the size of the training. Do I need to take 100 people together and do a big debriefing kind of 1 hour training? Or do I need to take 10, 20 people and do a very intense activity with them and then only educate them? Again, depends upon the engagement level and the criticality of the subject. You may do small team, you may do medium team, you may do 101, or you may do a big room or a big group training. So we need to be judgmental about the situation there. We need to cover various topics as we discussed before in the mindset also. So we need to think about putting various training options. We may also need to think about the durations. Should it be everything compressed in a 1 or 2 days, or should it run for 1 month or 1.5 month, deliver the training in a small pieces? So we need to also see how we spread the learning, because if you are spreading the learning, it also gives people time to give a case study, do a presentation back, and we can have engagement with them so that we can ensure that the intervention is really creating the impact. So all depending upon the gaps, capabilities, and the nature in place, we need to identify the right training options. Now moving forward, allocate resources for the training. Now this becomes sometimes tricky. Sometimes you have a training and the project manager has created a training calendar, you have scheduled them, but actually the people are also allocated to their work. So as we learn in our project management, everything should be integrated. It should not be that there is a training plan but the person also has a scheduled activities for today. So we need to ensure our project schedule, our project budget, and the resource management plan, which may have a training and other things, are in sync. In our predictive life cycle, we can call it that our project management plan should be in synchronized, so that we have time allocated, budget allocated, and the training schedule all are matching. Now, in case of agile way of working, you can say that we can follow capacity allocation, which means we can say that every iteration, or we may have a 3 hours allocated to learning and training activities. So we know that this is the time where people will be spending on their improvement and education and exploring new ideas. So that's a possible way of allocating resources for the training in the adaptive way of working. Or we can have a improvement backlog items. So as a part of our say product backlog, so I just write an adaptive here and I write a predictive here. So predict, it's easy to say that yes, we need to allocate resources, but I'm trying to map to the artifacts which help us in really tracking those resources. So in the adaptive way, we may have a capacity allocation, or we may have a backlog item which shows the improvement and learning. So as you learn that in our adaptive way of working, we put an emergent product backlog, and in the backlog we may have an improvement idea, and when we are working on a various sprints as a part of retrospective and all, we can keep adding those items, and we decide based on the criticality and things in a which particular sprint or in which particular iteration we want to place that particular training backlog item. So we need to allocate resources for the training. The essential resource is your team's time, and then definitely the trainer and the facilities and the licenses, the other infrastructure, and everything should be matching in our scheduling and costing purpose. Now, another important parameter from the exam perspective, we need to look for cost-effective options. So see, our project management is all about giving best value to our stakeholders. So whenever you deal with a question, you need to see that am I putting the right judgment? Now again, cost effective doesn't mean that you will go for low quality. You will ensure whatever is the need of the training, and based on that training expectation and quality expectation, now I need to find out the best option for my project team. So be careful when you are choosing the options. Sometimes people tell you have an option that you will find someone from your team to train, and there could be another option which says that you will find a cost effective option to train. You go for cost effective. Don't assume the person from your team is the cost effective. Because the person may deliver something, it may be cheap but may not be at a quality. But at the same time, you don't want to ignore the fact of cost effectiveness. So I need to plan resources. I need to do best use of my organization resources and organization money as well as project money. And looking at that, I need to develop people at the same time, manage the finances and the cost and the resource and time, everything well. So that's another reminder, allocated resource for training. Now, finally, measure training outcome. So it's like this. You have developed people. You have put them into training. Are they really developed? You think that you have given them education. Is it effective? Because the project management is all about taking feedback. So do we have a mechanism to evaluate how things are going? Now here I try to show that in order to grow a capability or a result, the training alone may not be sufficient, because the result comes as a process of acquiring knowledge, developing ability to apply that knowledge, and having an attitude and habit to apply that knowledge. So it's like a knowledge, ability, and habit. When they start building, then we start producing result. Our overall goal is achieving project success, and training should help us in achieving project success, but it looks like a little delayed feedback loop. You may not be able to know then and there that are we going in the right direction. So in order to acquire knowledge, we focus on training. Yeah? In order to develop ability in the ongoing basis, we focus on mentoring. And in order to ensure or reinforce and develop a habit of producing result, we do a different kind of intervention, which is coaching and reinforcement. Incidentally, we have another task which is focusing on mentoring. Someday we will take that task and then we focus on more about mentoring and coaching. But here I just wanted to say that the training outcome might be our major focus area, but it may not directly contribute to the result because it takes time. But at the same time, we need to have some mechanism of seeing, are we doing good when it comes to a training? Yes, you can do a few things. You can, as a project manager, focus on post-training performance assessment. There could be some pre and post assessment thing. We may have an observation of knowledge, what the person has learned based on the training achieved. Sometimes we may focus on some standard bodies certification and learning. We can make people go for, say, PMP certification. And if they get certified, we know that they have learned something. Yeah, that's one possibility. And there is also a possibility in many organizations we follow where we ask them to present what they have learned. In some organization, there is a kind of a standard. Whenever you go for a training, you need to share the insights about the training in an internal presentation to your internal team. So that's way we know that, okay, person got something about it. So these are few of the tools which we can measure to see the effectiveness or an outcome of the training. Mentoring, observing the skill of observation of a skill improvement. So when I continuously mentor people around that and I see people are doing good, I see my mentoring is effective. And when I say how I see my coaching and reinforcement is effective, and I see that the person is demonstrating result and the leadership in that particular work area, we are getting things done by using that particular skill, I can say, yeah, this is where I'm getting the best out of my effort, which we go then put into training, mentoring, and coaching. So there are three kind of intervention which comes in order to produce the best result. But as a project manager, we need to have a feedback at each level. So we know that we have done a good first step, then we are doing the second step, and then finally we are doing the third steps. Some skills which are not that complicated may directly get applied just after the training, maybe just a usage pattern and all. The more complicated skills will require more mentoring and coaching before they can produce the desired result. Yeah. So this is like you can measure the outcome of the training. I think that's it for this particular task. If you have some specific queries related to this task or something else, put it in the comment area, be it on LinkedIn or on YouTube. We can talk about them now. Relatively simple, I guess, but new because many of us as a project manager may have never given that much attention to the training.